There are thousands upon thousands of TV shows that are available to watch right now, but have you ever thought about which ones cost the most to produce? This is Top 10 Luxury Edition, and in this video, we are going to be showing you the top 10 most expensive shows ever made, and if they turned out to be successful or not. The budgets of these shows are all massive. The amount of money spent per episode on some of these shows is even higher than some Hollywood movies. Before we begin, please consider subscribing to the channel, it would help us a lot. Without further ado, let's get right into the video. Number 10. Sense8. Sense8 was one of the most expensive Netflix shows ever produced, costing an absurd $9 million per episode. Netflix must have really liked the concept of the show to be willing to have poured this much money into producing it. The sci-fi show was about 8 people living in different parts of the world who have a special connection to each other. Because of the fact that the characters were scattered around the world, they had to spend a lot of money filming in each location. The show received great feedback from critics and the public. However, because of the extremely high production costs, the show turned out to be a bad investment from Netflix and was cancelled after the end of the second season. Number 9. Marco Polo. Marco Polo was Netflix's most expensive production ever when it was released in 2014. The estimated cost for the first 10 episodes sits at about $90 million, which is equal to each episode costing about $9 million. The story was based around Marco Polo's adventures in 13th century Mongolia, and the main cast included the likes of Benedict Wong and Lorenzo Ricamli, both of whom are established actors. You'd think that an outstanding show would have been produced for this sort of money, but the show didn't receive great reviews from critics and viewers, and only got nominated for a few awards. The public were not excited about the show, and this caused the numbers to be quite a lot lower than expected. The show ended up losing Netflix a massive $200 million, and is infamously known as Netflix's biggest flop. Number 8. Rome. Rome was an extremely expensive show produced by HBO, costing a whopping $10 million per episode. The show was filmed near the Italian capital, and the production costs were very high. The show was centered around the life of Julius Caesar, but also included the viewpoints of his family, his adopted successor, and Italian politicians. The show was loved by the general public, and as of right now, has a solid rating of 8.7 out of 10 on IMDb. The show ended up being cancelled in the second season, but many of the people involved in the production considered it a great experience. In fact, many of the people involved in producing and directing Rome ended up working in Game of Thrones, HBO's biggest success. The show was nominated for several dozen awards and ended up receiving a large amount of awards too, which shows that although it was discontinued, it must have truly been a good watch. Number 7. Friends. Friends is extremely well known around the world, and is still a great watch even though it has been 15 years since the last episode aired. The show cost around $10 million per episode, but unlike some of the other shows on the list, the majority of that $10 million went straight to the actors' bank accounts. Jennifer Aniston, Courtney Cox, Lisa Kudrow, Matt LeBlanc, Matthew Perry, and David Schwimmer each received $1 million each per episode of the series. That adds up to $6 million per episode, straight to the actors. The show was loved by critics and the general public, and its IMDb rating sits at a sweet 8.9 out of 10, making it one of the highest rated shows on IMDb. The story revolved around 6 young adults from New York City and their experiences of living in the real world. I personally have watched all 10 seasons of the show and would definitely recommend it. It's a great watch. Number 6. The Big Bang Theory. The show in 2007 ended up sticking around until the last episode in 2019. Number 5. The Get Down. The Get Down was the most expensive Netflix show in 2016, costing around $11 million per episode, much higher than its expected budget of $7.5 million. Starring Justice Smith as Ezekiel, the show was a musical about 1970s New York City and a teen who uses dance as an escape from the violent, torn-down city. The actors in the series didn't receive insanely high wages like some of the other shows in this list, but the main reason that so much money was spent on the show was because of filming shutdowns and changes in the staff and the script. The show received good feedback from viewers and critics, but for $11 million per episode, the production company probably wanted their feedback to be exceptional. After the first season, The amount spent had totaled $120 million, higher than a lot of Hollywood blockbusters, and the show was cancelled before the second season had begun. What a shame. Number 4. Band of Brothers. Directed by Tom Hanks, Band of Brothers was a war series set from 1942 to the end of the Second World War. Each episode cost about $12.5 million to produce, and the series only had 10 episodes in total, meaning it cost $125 million for around 10 hours worth of running time. The high cost of the show was mainly because of the incredible detail that went into it, from the costumes to the sets and the special effects. In 2002, the show received more than 30 awards and was a success among critics and viewers. The first episode had around 9 million US viewers, which is a more than healthy amount. However, this dropped by half by the end of the series, with the finale only having 5 million viewers. Number 3. ER. Aired by NBC, ER was the first medical drama to reach a high level of success. In fact, it was this show that made George Clooney a household name. From 1999 to 2009, each episode cost in the realm of $12 to $13 million to produce. Since there are 15 seasons of the show, this amount added up over the years. However, since the show made revenues in excess of $3 billion, it's undoubtedly considered a huge success. The show also received positive feedback from viewers, and on IMDb, it currently has a score of 7.7 out of 10. Not too shabby. Number 2. Game of Thrones. Number 2 on our list for the most expensive shows ever produced is none other than Game of Thrones. You may be surprised that this wasn't number 1 on the list, and I am too. At a budget of $15 million per episode, Game of Thrones was one of the biggest investments ever made by HBO, and it turned out to be HBO's biggest success. It's not surprising that the show cost so much to make. It's filmed in locations across the world, from Ireland to Croatia to Malta. The plot is about the war between 9 families who try to gain control of the mythical land of Westeros, and the interesting ideas developed throughout the series paid off by bringing HBO huge commercial success. Number 1. The Pacific. It came as a shock to me that Game of Thrones did not dominate the list. The Pacific, another show produced by HBO, ended up costing $21 million per episode, $6 million more than Game of Thrones per episode. Although the show didn't get the same level of recognition as Game of Thrones, it still turned out to be a good investment by HBO, as it was praised by critics due to the detail that went into making the show look like it was really filmed in the 1940s. The battle scenes were also a costly expense, along with the landing on the French shore of Polo. Big names such as Rami Malek acted in the show, which was another reason for its considerable budget. Alright, so that was the top 10 most expensive shows ever made. If you have watched any of the shows featured on the list, be sure to let us know what you thought about them in the comment section down below. A lot of people overlook the amount of time, money, and planning that goes into filming and producing a show, so I hope the hefty price tags per episode that we showed you in today's video gave you some more perspective on the matter. Anyway, this has been Top 10 Luxury Edition. Have a great day. Peace.